The move did seem to have a bit of an impact on sterling earlier on. Let's talk about what the foreign exchange markets have made of all of today's news. Adam Bobroff is the Director of Foreign Exchange at Foremost Currency. Let's deal with the pound first of all. Was that the reason why we saw a little bit of selling today, or is there something else behind it?
No, I think it's probably just a little bit of a retracement on the bit of an advance from the pound over the past couple of months. The focus really on interest rates now. Are we going to put interest rates up? The concern over inflationary pressures has given the pound a bit of a boost. But realistically, I think, as you touched on earlier, actually, interest rates probably not looking to go up, so the pound just starting to ease back.
What would you do with your money? Do you believe that? Is the market right? What should I be doing?
Personally, I wouldn't want to be holding on to pounds at the moment, to be absolutely honest with you. There's a lot of speculation about interest rates going up from May onwards. I can't see that they're in a position to do so. You know, you put up interest rates at this point, and realistically, the effect on the housing market from there could send the UK back to where we were, you know, a year and a half or so ago. So I wouldn't be holding the pound.
What would you be holding? Would you be looking at the euro as an option, or do we go the safe route and stick with the Swissy?
I'd probably stick with the Swissy. I'd probably also be tempted with the safe haven of the dollar as well. The euro really wouldn't be the way that I would go with this either. I think there's still some serious issues to come out the eurozone. Germany, of course, leading the charge on growth, but no one else really. Again, as was touched on earlier, that is one of the few green spots. They probably do need interest rates to go up in the not too distant future. But of course they're propping up the eurozone, so I wouldn't be going anywhere near the euro either.
So my view is probably in the second half of the year we'll begin to see central banks looking at raising interest rates. Which of the major currencies do you think will gain from a turnaround on the central bank's policy of keeping rates so low and keeping them there?
I think if interest rates do go up in the UK, of course, the pound would be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. It goes back to the old-fashioned way whereby interest rates and interest rate differentials are really one of the biggest movers on the market. But personally, I don't think that we'll see interest rate rises this year necessarily for the UK.
Why does the pound go up if interest rates go up? I understand the causal link on the sort of the yield side of things, but as you've already indicated, a rise in rates will have a very damaging impact on the British economy. Yeah,
I think you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, to be absolutely honest with you. We're in a position now whereby, yes, in theory, you put up interest rates and, of course, investors chase the yield. But at the same time, of course, if it has a negative effect on the housing market, then that could cause the pound to then slump back down. So really, I don't think the pound will be a huge gainer off the back of it, even if we do put up interest rates.
Yes, because I think interest rates to normalise rates in a fast growth, relatively moderate inflation economy would boost the currency. But if you're raising interest rates to curb inflation and you've still got a relatively poor growth rate, which is probably the situation for the UK this year, then that's actually not necessarily good news for the currency.
No, and one of the major reasons for the inflation really is to do with fuel and energy. It's not actually positive inflation. It's not like Germany or China, whereby the inflation pushes from growth, from exports. We don't have that strong export to really provide positive inflation, to therefore move interest rates up to curb it.
Should I be buying the dollar? More and more people, like Lacker's doing it this afternoon, talking about QE2 not even being fulfilled in its full remit. If they start to say, you know what, we're done with QE, that should provide a nice boost to the dollar going forward.
Yeah, I think the dollar, to be fair, is not done on its safe haven move. I think that's really, you want to be buying the dollar above 160, selling it below 150 against the pound, and I think probably the next move will be toward 150.
I think the other interesting point that comes up with the US economy at some point is that the numbers, while the headline numbers are looking okay, the Fed has been very cautiously and very slowly been kind of putting statements out there saying, well, don't expect magic here. So when you see numbers that headline look pretty decent, but then you hear these cautious tones start coming back out from the Fed, is there some concern in the market that maybe at some level we are going to see that growth that everyone's talking about in the US tapering off?
Yeah, I mean, one of the major things for them, and one of the major figures to watch always, is their labour market as well. That really is going to underpin the dollar, of course, because unemployment for them will always lag behind the curve, as it will do for most, and that's still a major concern. So, much like for the UK, the return to recovery will be very slow for them, and really the dollar just benefits off the back of the safe haven move rather than the strength of its own actual figures.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're going to pick one of the four major currencies, if you like, which was going to appreciate the most this year?
I would probably side with the US dollar just again because of its safe haven one. Previously I would have sided with the Aussie dollar, but I think that one may well be done now. And actually over the course of this year we're expecting that one to unwind itself a little bit as the commodities market starts to settle back down again. Probably the Swissy is actually not a bad move at the moment.
All right, appreciate you coming in. Thanks very much for your take on that. Adam, of course, is Director of Foreign Exchange at Foremost Currency.